and welcome to yet another tutorial. This one is going to be for all of you architecture students out there. I'm going to show you how to do solar analysis in a kind of quick and, well, not so dirty way in pure Rhino without actually using Grasshopper or Vray. Well, I'm lying. We will be using Vray by the end of this tutorial, but you don't need Vray to get an output. And basically what we're aiming for is an animation of our building. And here what you see on the screen that I have is, well, something resembling a building. It's actually a structure that I've been showing how to do in my previous tutorials. I guess I'll put a link in the video description. If you're interested in these kind of structures, check out those tutorials. This is Grasshopper though. But I will be doing the solar analysis on this, right? But of course, if it works on this, it will work on any form or any architectural geometry. Right, so let's begin. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to set up the sun, right? We want to turn it on, actually. So I'll type in sun, enter. And I will just make sure that sun is on, click. And I could say manual control, but for this one, we don't want manual control. We actually want to describe the position of the sun according to a location and time and date, right? So sun is on, I scroll down, and here I can choose date and time. I will just choose now, whatever. And wherever it says the location, I will just kind of find, let's go for Copenhagen. Copenhagen, Denmark. And that is literally it. We just kind of have set up our location and our date for the sun. If I now go to, let's go for rendered preview rather than Arctic. If I go for rendered preview, you can see that there is kind of light. There are indeed shadows, and then the light comes in from a certain direction. Oh, I can even show you with sun on. I can kind of change the, let's say, the time of the day, and you can see that the shadows get affected. Okay, so now it's time for us to actually render out an animation, right, of the sun changing. So I will kind of switch up a little bit, and first thing that I'm going to do is set up all of the render parameters, render settings. And we are not going to be using Vray for Rhino right now. We are just going to be using default Rhino renderer. So make sure that under render, current renderer, you have Rhino render selected, not Vray for Rhino. Okay. Then I will open up the rendering tab on the far right side of my screen. And if the render tab is not there, quite easy. You just click on this little icon right here, which says options, and you just find the rendering name, I guess, or tab name, and tick mark it, right? Then you will get the render tab. I'll just expand it just a tiny bit. And here there's kind of a bunch of settings that we can change. I will just minimize everything so that we can talk about all of them separately. So current render, Rhino render. Yes, exactly. That's what we want. View, current viewport. Yes, that is what we're going to be rendering, our current viewport. Resolution and quality. For dimensions, instead of custom dimensions, which is kind of weird, like a portrait style resolution, I will just choose the regular one, 1920 by 1080. This is like the regular HD resolution. DPI is whatever quality. Here you just choose what kind of rendering quality you want. I could go for good, but I guess for a quick test, draft is going to be fine. Well, let's go for low. This is weird. It should be first draft, then it should be low. What do you mean? Anyway, I'll go for good, I guess. Good quality, whatever. So that's done. Backdrop. For the backdrop, I don't want it to be pure white. Maybe you do, so just change it to solid color, pure white. For me, I kind of want it to be a gradient between, just give me the freaking color picker, between mid gray and for the bottom, I want it to be dark gray. Just a gradient. You can also have an environment and then so on, but I will not be showing that in this tutorial. It doesn't matter. So we have that. Then we don't care about background being transparent or not. Ground plane though, if I tick mark this, see now the shadow is here. Yay, we get some shadows. So I will reposition my camera. So these shadows are going to be quite important for us, to actually look at where the building drops the shadow, and of course, if your building is surrounded by other buildings, that's important information. So ground plane, important, unless you already have some sort of geometry for the ground, then you don't care about the ground plane. You turn it off. Use custom environment for reflections. We will not have any reflections here, so we don't care. For lighting, we are using sun, and we are going to be using a skylight. By the way, if I untick the skylight, the shadows are going to be much darker. That's because it will only register a direct light. Only the light from the sun is going to be registered, meaning there's not going to be any bounces in the atmosphere. So for the skylight, what I like to do is I like using, well, actually, we could use studio environment, that's fine, but I would like to reduce the intensity of it to something like 0.5 to darken the shadows just a tiny bit, right? To increase the contrast of the shadows. So that's working good. Wireframe, we can choose to render like stuff here, like curves, dimensions, and whatnot. We don't have those, so we don't care. Dithering, really don't care about that, and I will not even be explaining that. Render channels, automatic channels are great. We don't want to mess around with that. And last one is Rhino advanced settings, so where we can kind of change some settings to higher values. But what I see from here, like 32 maximum bounces, glossiness, 16 passes for glossiness, or bounces for glossiness. Like this is fine, So if your settings are different from mine, just use these, copy paste. And then texture bay quality, we don't have any texture, so we don't care about the quality. Okay, we almost didn't need to change anything here. That's great. We do have all of this set up, and now what we can do is set up the animation, right, for our light or sun. So the animation settings are under Render Tools tab here in the top. You have your standard C-planes, blah, 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 and then you have your Render Tools. And here you have the Animation Tools tab. Sweet one, right? Once you click it, 4 different options will appear. And one of them is set up 1-day sun study, right? If you left click it, or if you right click it, it says set up seasonal sun study, right? So the seasonal is basically same hour. I think it's same hour. Let's check. Seasonal is, yes, same hour every day for 365 days. Right? Just checking how that hour is going to change. In our case, we care about a single day analysis, right? So we're gonna cascade this and use 1-day sun study. By the way, also you have fly through animations and so on. So I will be doing tutorials on those later, but for now we're just focusing on the sun study. So just click that icon. Bam. 1-day sun animation. Latitude and longitude we need to set them, and we are going to set them to Copenhagen again, right? So this doesn't remember what we set up in the sun. parameters, right? We need to reset it. So in Copenhagen, great. Or do we do Hong Kong? This looks like more of a Hong Kong thing, right? So let's do Hong Kong. Somewhere here? Nope. Here? There we go. Good aim. Good aim. So Hong Kong, hit OK. You have your latitude, longitude. Then for the north angle, you basically, if your building is rotated, right? And the y-axis is not true north, then you need to kind of calculate by how much your building is rotated and place it here. But in my case, it doesn't really matter. This is like a fictional tower. So for the date, we can choose June 1st, huh? Do we do June 1st? Maybe I want to do like April 420, April 20th. Let's go. 2010, who cares about the year? Start time 6 a.m. end time 6 p.m. I will kind of increase it to 8 p.m. Because I'm guessing the sun will, no, actually it's April. Well, whatever. So this is the gap. This is going to be how many hours we're evaluating. And this is where we are going to control how fast the animation is going to go. So imagine this. If we have, let's say, 120 minutes between every frame of the animation, that means that for 8 plus 6 is 14. For 14 hours of simulation, we will only get 7 frames. And 7 frames is like nothing, right? 1/3, even less, 1/4 of an animation, of a second within an animation. So we need to be very specific about minutes. And the smaller the number, the longer the animation is going to be, because it's going to make more frames. So for minutes, I'm going to say, let's say 5 minutes for every frame. We'll test it out. Actually, where's my calculator? So if it's 5 minutes for every frame, right? So if we have 14 hours and we multiply them by 60, that's how we have 840 minutes, right? In a day, in our simulation rather. And then we divide it by 5 minutes, right? We get 168 frames, and we divide them by 30, because that's the frame rate. You know, for every second we have 30 frames. Enter. We will have 5.6 second animation. A really quick one. So actually, I will say, let's go for 3 minutes between every frame. File type JPEG, sure, that's fine. Capture method render full, that's fine. Viewport, yes, the one that we are currently using. And animation name, I will just call it Sun Study 420. Okay, hit OK. We are good to go. And before we start actually recording or rendering the animation, there's this kind of green play button right here, which says preview animation. And you also have like more stuff here, but all we care about is the green button, preview animation. Click that, and it's gonna show you, you know, a preview of what you can expect. Looks nice. And then, yeah, so it goes down, right? Noticed how at the end, the sun was below the horizon and it was still shining. That's a boo-boo. That's not good. So to get rid of that, you would actually need to have some sort of a not background, but some sort of a plate on which your building is standing. And I could model it out, but I don't know. Maybe we don't care. Maybe we just change the setup of the animation. So this is kind of the play that I'm talking about. And of course, you would need to make it nice because then the animation, once we actually play it, again, now once the sun sets, it's not going to kind of be shining from bottom up, right, to your building. There we go. That was the sunset. So I think we can do it this way. Or actually, let's just get rid of it for this tutorial. Go to animation tools, set up the animation, and here instead of 8 p.m., I will say 6 p.m. You know, I'll change it back so that the sun doesn't set too low, or the animation doesn't go for too long. It okay? Preview animation again. If we're happy with it, we will be clicking this record animation button. Let's just see if we are happy with it. We are. That's fine. Looks good. So I'll click the record animation, press enter to start recording. But here we first need to set up the target folder. So I'll click on it, I'll just create one in my desktop, make new folder. I will call it, hello, can I rename you? Rename. I'll call it base Rhino animation. Like that. Okay, there we go. Select it. Come on, select it, hit OK. Now it's going to be to save there. Random animation. Yes, I guess. I don't know. And just hit enter. And now it's going to start rendering. And it's going to start rendering with the default Rhino renderer. Let's just see if the first frame is going to be. Yeah, there we go. There's the first frame. So I'm going to let it render all of its frames. And after it's done, I will tell you how long it took. And we will take a look at the final output. And also we'll take a look at how much faster Vray will do this task. Holy crap. I'm amazed how bad the rendering engine is in Rhino. Should have expected this, but so it took 4 hours and I just stopped it because I couldn't wait that long anymore. And in 4 hours, my computer managed to render out 156 frames, right? And I'm going to stitch them together now, and I will show you that animation right now. So that's basically what you get for 4 hours of rendering time with default Rhino. Let's investigate this further. Right? Let's take a look at this further. So I'm going to try and redo the same thing with Vray for Rhino. So the first thing is we need to close this window here. Would you like to save the image? No, thank you. And we need to make Vray our default render engine, right? So I go under render. By the way, if you don't see Vray for Rhino, you need to install it, right? So go to the internet, download Vray. I think it's like a 30-day free trial or something like that, and install it. Vray for Rhino, that's my active render right now, which means I don't care about the render tab anymore because all of my necessary options are here in Vray Asset Editor. Animation tutorial. I don't remember this at all. It doesn't matter. What kind of actually, what kind of a material is this? This is just gray, glossy gray. Yeah, whatever. So here, all we need to do, we already have set up our sun system and our animation, right? If I press the preview animation button, it shows us, it shows us the sunlight and how the sun travels. So all of that is already done. All of that works. And the only thing that we need to do here is make Vray understand that we have an animation in Rhino. So I go to settings here, this little icon right here. I go to the animation tab and I will need to turn it on, right, to kind of move forward. But before I do that, I kind of want to construct the scene a little bit to make it, nicer. Because for instance, here it's, well, that is super bright. That's the first thing, right? So I'll change the brightness of it to, so that's camera settings, exposure value, something like 14 probably. That seems a little bit better, right? 14 seems to be doing the trick. Let's do, well, let's do 15 maybe. Even 16. Yeah, that seems good. That seems good. So with 16, we get like a decent brightness contrast ratio. Then for additional effects, you could add vignetting, but that's whatever. We want, what do we want? Just a sec. Yeah, a render output. Let's change the size of the render, right? So we want the render output to be, I guess for comparison reasons, we will be doing 1080p, right? So 1920 by 1080, hello? Oh, aspect ratio, forgot to change the aspect ratio, my bad. So aspect ratio is going to be widescreen, 1920 by 1080. There we go. Right? Our little render right here. And then we have our environment tab, which doesn't have any environment. And we are using the sun, which means that our environment, the texture slot for our background is going to be a sky texture, right? And for some reason, oh yeah, I think I know what's up. The tick mark is unticked here, so I will tick the tick mark, all right, so that we are actually using the sky texture or sky map as our global illumination or environmental illumination map. Okay, so we have this this going right now. It seems to be okay. Only one light source, one material. Actually, I just slap on a material to this bad boy. I just want it to be gray, right? All right, so I've just added a like default material to the scene, to my geometry, just to get a little bit more grayish tone for it. Nothing fancy. Back to settings. I don't think I want to change anything else here. I think everything is fine. There's not much to change. Render output, widescreen. Yeah, sure. Then for global illumination, I will be changing this though. But before I do that, I do need to turn off the interactive render, right? So I am going to go for final production render. So interactive is off, progressive is off, or progressive can be turned on if you wish. That's fine. It's a matter of taste at this point. For global illumination, I will click on this like I don't know. I call it a hidden button because no one. Why would you hide this button? Anyway, so I click on this to get some advanced settings for global illumination. I find my ambient occlusion settings, and here I will just change the radius to, I have no idea, 0.5. How big is this? I think for my model, 0.5 will work, but for you, for an architectural one-to-one scale building, you want like 250 millimeters, something like that. This will just darken the crevices, right? Gives it more three-dimensional look. That's basically it. We're almost ready to go. We need to choose that we are going to be saving the file. Click file path. I'll actually create a new folder for this and I'll call it, how did I call the previous one? Base Rhino animation. So I'll call Vray Rhino animation like that. And I'll just say title or, test render. And I will choose JPEG because I don't care about any other format for something like this. I would be using EXR for like fancy renders because then you can change more things in Photoshop. But for this, I will just use JPEG. Hit save. Now it's back to, now it's back to animation settings, right? We turn them on. There we go. Animation source, Rhino. Perfect. Time segment, entire animation. Perfect. You can also have motion blur, but our camera is not moving, so we don't care about motion blur. And I believe that is it. This is literally all you need to do. Very simple. Hit render. And it's going to begin, right? Begin rendering the frames. I messed something up, didn't I? Why is this so dark? Whoopsie. Let's take a look at how to make it better. You, sir, are very dark. I will stop the render. I will go back to camera settings, and for exposure value, I'll change this to like 14. Oh, right, it's dark because it's freaking really early in the morning, right? The sun is just above the horizon. Of course, it's dark because of that. So back to 15. I'm being stupid. Back to 15. But for the quality, just to make it go faster, I'll go for either low plus or medium quality. Let me show you low plus because we want to be on par with what we're getting from Rhino. The base Rhino rendering. So I'll hit that render button. And hopefully this time I will not need to wait 4 hours to get a result. But we will see. We will see. So I'll see you then. It's been 4 hours. Well, actually, it's been 2 hours and then I spent like 2 more rendering out this interior shot and animation for interior just to show you that, you're not limited to just rendering exterior solar analysis. You can do that on the interior as well. But I stopped it halfway because, rendering out interiors is notorious for long render times. In any case, the output that you get is basically a bunch of JPEGs, right? Like a crap ton of JPEGs every frame. And you need some sort of a program, some sort of software to stitch those JPEGs together into one animation, into one movie. And I personally use Adobe Premiere for my animation work, but you can also use free software such as DaVinci Resolve or even Blender, the same Blender 3D. It can do that as well, right? So just choose any software you want and stitch those images into one image sequence, into one animation. And basically, this is what we get, right? So can I expand this? I will do it this way and then full. There we go. Perfect. Our default Rhino render looks like this. Pretty good. And it will repeat once, right? Here it is. Pretty good, pretty decent. You can really see how the light is shining and so on. And how the light angle changes, how the shadow angle changes. And of course, you can change some, you can add some effects, change some, do it here real quick. Probably not. Now it's lagging. Let's see. what can we do? Video effects, color correction, Lumetri color. We can change color balance, for instance, or brightness and contrast. Let's just do a quick one with brightness and contrast, where I can ramp up the contrast, decrease the brightness, right, to get a more contrasting look to my render, right? So there are ways of how to enhance the image once you have rendered it out. Anyway, this is the preview of the default render. The Vray version looks like this. Let me press play. Well, it's nicer. It just is nicer, but it's basically the same concept. And let's repeat that once more. It's the same concept. It's the same angles, same information in terms of lighting. And then now we'll see the interior shot, much shorter. Go again. But kind of nice. Ain't gonna lie, right? So all in all, this is what we get, right? These videos. And I think in this day and age of Zoom presentations and showing stuff over the screen rather than printing it out, these kind of analyses and these kind of solar analyses really help out quite a bit to, let's say, sell your project either to a client or to your university teacher. I don't really know if there's anything more to say about this. Hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If there's any problems or any issues, just leave a comment. I'll make sure to help out, to answer. But other than that, I'll see you in the future videos. Later.